Hello, I'm Jacob Horvatic, and today I'm once again joined by my good friend and our Union Label Committee Chair, Jessica Bertocci. We're going to talk about freedom and what it means for us union-wise.
So what's freedom? Most people in America define freedom as freedom from something: taxes, the government, or rules. Today we'll go beyond this definition and explain a different perspective on freedom. In his book on freedom, Timothy Snyder, a Yale professor, historian, and philosopher, tells us that's only a small part of what freedom truly means.
Snyder explains there's two kinds of freedom: negative freedoms and positive freedoms. Negative freedoms are freedoms from, like the ones listed earlier, freedom from taxes, freedom from the government, freedom from rules. Positive freedoms are freedoms to: freedoms to love, freedoms to learn, freedom to vote, freedom to speak out against injustices and tyranny. Quoting Snyder, freedom is positive. It is about holding virtues in mind and having some power to realize them.
Timothy Snyder organizes his book into 5 sections for the different aspects of society that he feels are necessary for positive freedom to flourish. He calls on anyone who professes freedom as something to value to do the hard work to maintain and expand its horizons. He says for freedom to thrive, a society needs to foster sovereignty, unpredictability, mobility, factuality, and solidarity. We'll take each in turn, explain it, and how we can cultivate it on the shop floor, in our union hall, and beyond.
The first pillar of freedom Snyder describes is sovereignty. Traditionally, sovereignty is something we think of as belonging to a country's rulers, the supreme authority over the land and its people, and the ultimate decision-making power. Snyder explains that positive freedom requires us as humans living in the world to understand our own sovereignty, our own agency. When we're able to come together in groups and effect change, that's when we're acting with true sovereignty.
A healthy union is more than just a bulwark against bad management and unfair discipline. When the union is at its best, it can be a positive force, changing our workplaces by bringing isolated workers together for higher wages, better benefits, and a safer working conditions. The union gives us a way to wield our shared power to influence our economic, social, and political realities for the betterment of the people's lives beyond the shop floor.
Next, Snyder describes how free people have a high degree of unpredictability. Unpredictability connects to freedom not only because a free person has more choices for their life, but because an unpredictable person is harder for an authoritarian to control. Social media has in many ways made us less unpredictable. Algorithms sort us into neat boxes for the benefit of advertisers, and these boxes have become enclosures where malicious forces can poke and prod us, using our fears and desires to manipulate us.
At the extreme, this unfreedom turns us into predictable creatures, quaking from fear in self-built cages, dreaming of enemies we never meet, and of friends and lovers we do not have. When we exist together in physical space, whether that's on the assembly line, in the break room, or across the street at the hall, we take a step away from the prescribed content that dictates much of what we think, feel, and share.
During the 2023 stand-up strike, our union's unpredictability was on full display. Under the leadership of member-elected President Shawn Fain, the Big Three went on strike in an unprecedented fashion. By targeting key plants in Ford, GM, and Stellantis, we deployed an unpredictable tactic. It's no coincidence that we won the biggest economic gains for our members in the 21st century. It shows that our choices can influence our economic circumstances. The powers that be, news anchors, politicians, and CEOs all predicted status quo, but we did the unexpected, the unpredicted, and we won big.
The chapter for Snyder's next pillar of freedom, mobility, begins with him describing a trail he followed as a teenager down to a secluded beach. He explains that every trail ever made was blazed by someone for others, and every trail we have ever taken was crafted by someone who went before us.
This illustrates something at the heart of our union. Outside of our local union hall, we have a sign that reads, UAW Local 249, First Ford Local. We are here having this discussion about what it means to have freedom and being a union because of the trails blazed by brave men who put their lives on the line in 1937. It is the responsibility of every member today to steward that path cleared by those men. We must ensure its continued existence for the next generation of 249 members.
The UAW Constitution lays out the objective of the union: to improve the working conditions, create a uniform system of shorter hours, higher wages, health care, and pensions, to maintain and protect the interests of workers under the jurisdiction of this international union. Let's put this in terms of mobility. The union mobilizes its members to improve the socio-economic mobility and therefore the freedom of its membership and working people everywhere.
Snyder's fourth pillar of freedom is factuality. As free people, we can and should have differences in values, but we cannot sustain freedom when we disagree on what the facts are. As union members, we have documents and institutions that empower us to experience factuality in our workplace. Our contract is the document that lays out the facts of how things should go between us and management. When the contract is broken, we have grievance procedures and hearings to serve as fact-finding institutions to ensure our freedom is not unduly denied. By reading what our contract says and learning how the grievance process works, we increase our capacity to know what's factual, and as a result, we are more free.
Zooming out to a larger scale issue around factuality, let's turn our attention to the ongoing climate crisis. There may be some of you listening who deny this out of hand, and that's a problem. The climate crisis is real. It already affects our lives in the forms of increasing insurance premiums, rising food costs, and increasing energy to keep our homes more comfortable in the extreme temperatures. But if we spend our time and attention repeatedly debating the factuality of human-caused climate change, we cannot have the discussions needed to work towards solutions to any of these issues. This makes us poorer, less stable, and less free.
Every day we spend rehashing the quote-unquote debate around the factuality of the climate crisis is a day we lose, a day that would have been better spent working towards solutions to adapt to the changes already happening and mitigate some of the worst changes expected by scientists. By denying the facts, we deny ourselves the ability to act. We deny ourselves choices. We deny ourselves freedom.
The final pillar of freedom Snyder discusses is solidarity. Solidarity is at the heart of unionism, and every union activist has their own personal definition of what solidarity means. Returning to the definition of freedom that we gave at the start of the episode, most Americans view freedom as freedom from laws, taxes, or other government interference. This worldview can distort how we perceive and interact with those around us. It is not a long walk from wanting freedom from interference from the government to not wanting to consider the wants and needs of neighbors and coworkers. Solidarity means coming together to have positive freedoms.
Positive freedom means the freedom to. It means the freedom to demand better working conditions, higher wages. It is the freedom to work a job and know our safety is assured and we will return home in one piece. We can only experience this freedom when we come together across race, religion, age, or anything else that might separate us. It is through solidarity that we realize our sovereignty. It is through solidarity that we are able to do the unpredictable, what others said was impossible. It is through solidarity that we experience mobility and work to expand mobility for the future. It is through solidarity that we can work toward common understandings and ensure the factuality of our information. It is through solidarity that we are free.